Wow, this is cool. Oh, this is amazing.
Nice.
All right,
Nice.
really cool. Hey, what's up everyone? TNRI here. Our today's guest is Anton Rosier, the CEO of Carver. Carver is an electric vehicle, which is not a moped and not a car. And you've probably seen one of those in one of the episodes of Top Gear. They really loved it. Yeah, Anton, thank you for having us here and at your headquarters in Leeuwarden, Netherlands. It's really cool. But yeah, please tell us, what do you do here?
Oh, first of all, you're more than welcome. It's nice that you came out here. What we do here is we assemble or do the final assembly for the Carver vehicles. Mm-hmm. Most of the assembly has been taking place in South Korea, and the vehicles arrive here in containers, and we add all the electronics and the battery pack here. We test them, calibrate them, and make them ready to go to customers in Europe. Because
with the vehicle, it's not really a car, not really a moped. What is it then?
Well, it's basically a new category. It's we tend to call it light EV or LEF, but light EV is something that's becoming more of a known name for it. What you see happening is that the smallest car, the A segment car, that's going to be very difficult in the near future for the manufacturers. You see that prices are, it's very competitive. They don't make any money on it. And now they also need to add batteries to it because they need to electrify the city cars. So you see that the main manufacturers, car manufacturers, they're moving towards the B segment and higher because they can make some money in those segments. So what you see happening is a big gap between electric bikes, electric mopeds, and on the one hand, and on the other side, you see the smallest electric vehicles like the Smart starting at 23,000 euros. And that gap between the mopeds going up to maybe 6,000 to 8,000 euros and the 23, that's a whole new segment that's, that's opening up at the moment, especially for urban vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Price of your vehicle as well is a lot more competitive.
Yeah, what you see now is that we're very close to the prices of electric mopeds and the more advanced electric bikes, the high-speed pedelecs kind of prices. So because we still need to compete with petrol engine small cars, and they start at about 10 to 12,000 euros. So we're now on the lower side of that segment, but we expect our vehicles also to grow into the other areas and more towards the car segment.
Mm-hmm. And the speed of the vehicle goes up to 45 kilometers. And
well, we've started to enter into this segment. You see that a lot of urban areas they are restricted to 45 kilometers an hour in Europe. In Korea and Japan and most Asian countries, you're allowed to drive 60 kilometers an hour. So the vehicle is also being sold in those countries, and then we adjusted software to go to 60 kilometers an hour. But we also see possibilities to move into higher segments. So the middle high class, like 80 to 100 kilometers an hour.
And you really seems like hitting it with especially like the world going nowadays with the direction of electric and taking less space in the cities and all that. I think there is definitely a future for your vehicle as well.
Yeah, well, it goes back to the history of the company. Mm-hmm. The founder was Ton van den Brink. Very successful entrepreneur, a completely different market in the plastic machinery, plastic molding machinery. But he was sitting in his car on a business trip in Paris by himself. He had a very luxury big car, not moving an inch because it was traffic on a Friday afternoon. He wanted to go home. but nothing was moving, and except for the motorbikes and the mopeds. And he looked around and he thought, well, here I am in my car, 2,000 kilograms of steel to transport one person of 80 kilograms. So that doesn't make sense. But then he looked at the motorbikes and he thought, well, in this rain, it's not very comfortable and it's not very safe. You're very vulnerable on an open vehicle. So then he thought, can't we make kind of a merge between these two communities, and so he came up with the idea to make a vehicle that was as narrow and as agile as a motorbike, but you would operate it like in a car, and you would sit and have the luxury and the safety of a car. So that was the beginning of the Carver. It turned out to be very difficult to make that, because the dynamics of a motorbike are completely different from a car. But in the end, his son succeeded, Chris van den Brink, my partner in the company. He succeeded in discovering what the principle of a tilting vehicle should be, and going from there, we developed more vehicles, and then in 2010 we changed the company into a technology company. So we sold all sorts of licenses of the patents of the technology that we developed. And then in 2015 we saw a lot of changes in China. We did a lot of business in China, and you saw that all the mopeds went to electric overnight, and that there wasn't enough space for cars in the cities. So a lot of Chinese people, they got stuck between, they had the money to buy a car, but they weren't allowed on the roads, and the only alternative they had was a moped. And then father, mother, child, 3 people on a moped is not a good idea. So we thought, we have the perfect technology to make that moped and upgrade it a little bit towards a car and make space for, initially we thought 3 people, but we ended up with a 2-seater, although the rear is pretty spacious, so you could drive it with 3 persons if allowed. So that's where we started the project, and we decided to start designing our own car again. So that's the beginning of the current Carver.
That's great. And for the beginning of you yourself as a person, you grew up in like a automotive kind of family, I would say, yeah?
Yes. Well, actually, my great-grandfather started importing Ford and Harley Davidson motorbikes in the Netherlands in 1904, and that grew out. He built the first buses in the Netherlands on Ford chassis, and my grandfather he went to Dearborn to learn about building cars. But in the end, my father sold the company in 91. I was a student then. I studied tax law, and I never thought I would come back to the automotive industry. But it turned out that it was written in the stars. So.
Yeah, because how did it happen that you ended up studying tax and even getting a master's in that?
Well, because the name was also always associated with cars or mobility. So a lot of my work for larger companies in the past also had to do with mobility. And through that I got into contact with Chris van den Brink, my partner, and I decided to team up and start build a company with him.
Did it start right away after the university, or?
No. I started working for international companies, all sorts of areas, and then I decided that I wanted to have my own company. I moved to South Africa. I lived in Cape Town for a couple of years, and had my own company there in air filtration systems. And after 3 years, I sold the company, came back to the Netherlands, and I was asked to work for also a mobility company in the Netherlands called PON Holdings, the importer for Volkswagen and Porsche and other brands. And although I never worked in that car section of this, I was always involved in the decision making in that area, but I worked in total different branches for them.
And how did that switch happen when you wanted to start work for yourself and then kind of going back to in the corporate?
I think the good thing about PON was that it was a holding company with a lot of very independent companies underneath. So I could be a little bit entrepreneur, but at the same time, I liked it a lot because you had very smart people around you that you could spar with and change ideas and stuff like that. But I must say that after 5 years working in that company, I found that entrepreneurial things are more my thing than working for a large corporate.
And did you meet your partner during those years in the PON?
No, I took over a different company in a trading company. So I left PON, bought a company that was a trading company, European, but I was during my period at PON, I got to know a lot of investment companies, and every time they had an investment or they planned an investment in an automotive related industry company, they would ask me to do a little research or due diligence. So beside my own company, that was something I did and I'd like to do it. There's always a couple of weeks, and so one of these investment companies asked me to go visit Carver. They were having a lot of problems at the time, 2009, 2010. They built the Carver One, which was a high-speed combustion engine Carver, but they used a Daihatsu engine. Daihatsu was taken over by Toyota, and Toyota was very reluctant to supply them with the combustion engines. So the production stopped. So that cost a lot of money. So they were looking for new investments, and that's how I got involved in the company.
Because also that was the same period they appeared on Top Gear, and they really loved it there.
Yeah, so they became world famous, I must say, with Top Gear, but also with Jay Leno's Garage and many others. I know that there were a lot of Formula One races, like Jason Button. They just loved the Carver. They drove it and they owned one. So it was, very famous, but it was also very expensive. So a Carver One cost 40,000 to 50,000 euros. So it was more like a toy for the wealthy people. Yeah.
And then when you met Chris, was it something you liked with Chris, or you liked the vehicle, or where the spark happened?
Well, the spark happened, I think, on both aspects. The Van den Brinks, Chris, and also his father, but also his brother, very entrepreneurial spirit. They made a lot of money with their first company. They lost a lot of money in the beginning of Carver. But that was never an issue. The driver was to have an idea, to do an invention, to create that invention and create a company around it. So it was never really money driven, and that was something I really liked because it was passionate for mobility, passionate for solutions, for problems they saw. And I think they the vision that they had, because we're talking the beginning of Carver, when the first idea started was 1994. And throughout that period, and even towards 2000 and 2010, you saw the auto industry move to even heavier vehicles, faster vehicles. You had the Hummer. How crazy can you get? I mean, with that Hummer driving in a city, using a gallon on a mile or something, it doesn't make sense. And so, what did tick it with me was that I was gone from the automotive industry for a while, and when I came back, I saw that it changed. You saw that cars became heavier and heavier, more and more traffic. So you got stuck in traffic every day, and still we wanted to build bigger cars. There was no parking space available, but we wanted to park bigger cars in the cities. And then I got to talk with the Van den Brinks and their vision, and I thought, yes, but this is it, you know. It's very nice to have a big car if you go on holiday, if you go skiing in the Alps, you want to take friends with, and you know, you need that big car. But for your daily commute, you want something that is, you know, practical, but also fun, because you want to have a fun ride every day. And with Carver, so on the one side it clicked on the entrepreneurial side, but on the other side it clicked because the fun aspect was so important to them. By the way, Carver comes from skiing, Carver. Chris Van den Brink is also the inventor of the snowboard. So when his dad called him, he was in Austria designing snowboards, because he was a keen surfer and also a keen skier, and he thought, well, yeah, both that skiing is a bit dull, a bit boring, so let's make something new. And so he created the snowboard. So that's where the Carver comes from. And then his dad called and said, well, listen, we're working on this new program for a new vehicle that I think we should have. And then he came back and designed the vehicle.
Yeah, because when driving Carver, when you go like side to side, it's the same as snowboarding.
It's exactly the same. So that's a lot of, very little people know it, but that's where the name Carver comes from. And also, if you drive it, that's really the feeling, that's that very natural movement to tilt when you take a corner. If you drive a very fast car, you go through a corner, being pushed to one side. But with a Carver, you're always being pushed down, like flying the road.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. And how do you complement each other then with Chris?
We're completely different. So he's an aeronautical engineer. But I think he's brilliant in his field. But he's capable of understanding a lot about marketing, about what people want, about business. My side is more the business side, the financial side, sales. But coming from an automotive family, I've had the upbringing in with dealerships and with import ships, and so the technical side I can understand, not as he can, but enough to be able to talk and to discuss things together, and I think together we come to the best ideas.
And then from your side, because as CEO, you probably need to build a company culture, and what kind of culture are you building here?
Well, as you can see, we all the offices and everything here is glass, and it's a reflection of our wish to be a very transparent company. So I think in a certain way we are very Dutch conservative, in the sense that I always compare it to American companies. They are when they have a good idea, they get a lot of investment in, so a lot of money they can burn. So they need to make a lot of noise, even though they don't have any product yet. And that's a different way of how we do things. So we tend to do things without a lot of money, so very quiet. So we develop for a long time without, making it known to the world. And once we have something, yes, we are very proud of it. And now we have that step to become known to the public. Not saying that the one way is better than the other way, but it's just like we are. So that's also the culture that we build into the whole atmosphere. Prove that we can do things and then make it known, and then be proud of it and start publicizing it.
Yeah, definitely, because I definitely see it in your marketing, because you do the walk with the recent bucket video.
Yeah.
in the new cargo delivery bike.
Right.
With the tilting, it's really cool.
Thank you.
Otherwise, it's also your new model as well, the cargo delivery.
Yeah.
Because you now more will be focused also to B2B side.
What you see happening now, if you take a little van into a city and you have to deliver something, at the address, you block the whole traffic. You block the roads. So it's not only annoying for the people waiting for you to get your package delivered, but it's also very stressful for the driver. So our advantage is that we're never in the way, because you park it on the side of the road and everybody can pass. So you're much faster through traffic. You're never in the way, and it's much less stressful for your delivery guys.
And it's fun for them as well to drive the Carver.
So we created a car that is very high tech on the technology that's inside, but high tech is very inexpensive to produce. But at the same time, you have a lot of luxury that you would have in a car, and a lot more safety than on a moped, and comfort.
Mm-hmm. And definitely heading Carver is like a lot of work for you in the daily life, but do you still have time to do other things outside of work?
But to be honest with you, it is so much fun. Mm-hmm. It's maybe a cliche, but it doesn't really feel like work. Mm-hmm. It's really passionate. We have so many possibilities still, and there's so many markets that we can conquer, and there's so many new ideas that we have for the future, so that we can build different vehicles, talking about small taxis, for example. There are so many ideas that we have that we would like to develop as well. No, it doesn't really feel like work yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What could be your advice then to young or like older people out there who want to do entrepreneurship and want to risk it?
Oh, just do it. That's the Nike thing. Just do it. Now, I think that the entrepreneurial, you don't be an entrepreneur because you want to be an entrepreneur, but if you feel that you have ideas that you can't really do within a larger company, then just start your own thing and just do it. And don't be afraid to fail. I mean, you'll have ups and downs, but you'll survive, and just start over again. But do it honestly. I mean, nobody can say, well, you failed and I won't help you again, if you've done it honestly and with the best intentions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And then for the last question, you will be going public. How do you feel about it?
Well, it's a small step. We're going public on a small stock exchange for smaller companies, but maybe it's a step up to something even bigger. For now, it allows people to invest in us, which is also nice because it's a different. You get different dynamics to talk to investors and learn how they look at the company, and also see if they approve of your strategy, if they approve of your way forward. It's important to me. I hope that the people who are investing in us will also become either ambassador or very involved by giving us feedback on how they think things should be run. I think that's a big advantage. And of course, the money is welcome. We have great ambitions. I think we have a very good product, actually two very good products, one for the cargo and the other one for personal transport. With COVID, it's a safe way to travel. A lot of, especially older people don't want to use public transportation anymore. So getting all these people into cars is not a solution. So we have a good solution for that.
Thanks for watching, and I hope that brought you some value. Like and follow on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, or any other podcasts you use. And as always, TNRI out.